It's my honor and pleasure to introduce you to Michelle Wirth. Now, I'll tell you how I met Michelle. Many of you know George Awadi, the publisher of The Republican. One day, I receive an email. George doesn't send me many emails, so I immediately looked, and he said, "Carol, I want you to meet this incredible woman who just moved to the region. Her name is Michelle Wirth." He had copied Michelle on that email. Within a nanosecond, Michelle and I were communicating with each other. Forget George. We were now communicating with each other. I said, "Michelle, come down to Bay Path." And she said, "I'd be happy to." Now, this woman is so incredibly busy, but she came. I was absolutely impressed with her energy, her enthusiasm, the way her mind worked, her philosophy. I thought, we have to invite Michelle Wirth so that all of you could hear from her about her philosophy of business, her philosophy of living. Her generosity of spirit is something that we at Bay Path wanted to share with you. So that's how I met this extraordinary woman. But now let me tell you her background, because that's even more impressive. She graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering from Lehigh University. And you need to know that one of the lowest numbers of women in any field is engineering in higher education today. So number one, absolutely an incredible feat. She started her 15-year career at Mercedes-Benz and said she could have gone to a number of other organizations and consulting companies with her mechanical engineering degree. But there was something about that interview with Mercedes, and she accepted their offer. And she rose quickly from being a mechanical engineer through their public relations and marketing divisions, and has had an extraordinary career. And then she also met her husband through Mercedes, Peter. I won't tell you that story, but it's a really great love story. And so maybe afterwards you can talk to Peter and Michelle, and let's see if they have the same version of that first meeting of the two of them at a Mercedes factory, right? So know that that was also something that caught my eye. But she is an innovative leader, and Michelle is someone that I felt you should know all about. In addition to her background and the fact that they will be launching their Mercedes dealership here, and that's why I wanted you to see this incredible video and know that we're having a raffle, and for all of those who stay at the end, no, it isn't the keys to her Mercedes. I'm only kidding. I've threatened Michelle with that's what I would like to raffle. Know that she is an extraordinary family individual and person and human being. And this is what I also loved. She said, "I try to balance my work life and my family life." She has 4 children, 3 boys, and they finally have Charlotte, who is 6 months old. So she's not only an incredible entrepreneur, an incredible businesswoman, but she's an incredible mother. I want you to join me in welcoming Michelle Wirth to our stage.
Out of here, if that's okay. Go for it. I can't stand behind the podium, so hello, everybody. I have to first of all thank Carol for that introduction. Please, my mom should be here. She'd be so proud. And I hope all of that is true. I just wanted to start the talk because Carol gave you a little bit about my background, but I like to get to know kind of the audience that I'm speaking to. So if you could indulge me by audience participation for like the first 5 minutes of this talk. By show of hands, how many people in this room are students of Bay Path? Raise them high because I'm a little blind. Perfect. Awesome. And then by show of hands, how many people are business leaders, citizens, everybody else? Awesome. Wow. Thank you for coming this early in the morning. Now I'm going to get personal. First question is, how many people have a driver's license? Almost everybody. I love it. Okay. How many people actually drive a car? So some cities, people don't drive cars. Okay, that's good. Now, how many people drive a luxury automobile? Let's say, for me, luxury would be Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Lexus, BMW, Cadillac, Acura, Infiniti. Raise them high. Be proud. Okay. Now I'm just curious, how many people drive a Benz? Okay. Good job, honey. Good job. So we aim to change that, but I think what you'd be surprised to know, and I just want to kind of lead with this, is that my husband and I decided to come to this area and to this region for a reason. There are actually a lot of you Mercedes-Benz drivers already in this market, even though you don't have a dealer that is necessarily geographically convenient to you. And we're opening our store on Monday, so hopefully we invite all of you to come check it out and see us. And we're very excited to bring the brand back to this market. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to kind of talk about my background a little bit, and then I'll jump right into the presentation. So I think a couple things that I just kind of want to have people pique their interest to and kind of pay attention to as we go through the day here is I want to focus the conversation more about kind of my approach to life and to business. And as I'm talking, I would love for you to kind of think about the things and the examples that I'm saying in your own life and try to apply it to yourself. Because I always find in talks like these, the more engaged you are in your own world, the better, because then you take more away from it. So I want to kick off the presentation by showing you a little video. Justin left me, so I'm going to try and do this myself here. So there's a lot in that video. I just want to give you a little bit of background. This video was actually produced by our friends at corporate, Mercedes-Benz Germany in Stuttgart, about 6 or 7 years ago, when it was the 125th anniversary of the invention of the automobile. So Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler, some people think that Ford actually invented the car, but it's not true. These two Germans actually simultaneously in different workshops in and around Stuttgart, Germany, invented the automobile. And this was produced as a way to kind of celebrate their invention. And I think it's still very applicable today. There's a lot in this video. I think you saw some statements from some very prominent leaders, right? People that you wouldn't expect, like Arthur Watson, head of IBM, saying there's not a market for computers. I think that's really funny. But I think what you also want to take away from it is that even people that are sometimes considered leaders in our community have a hard time letting go of hard-felt or notions that are just kind of common belief in our society. And so there's always those among us that actually do. And those are the people that I like to call visionaries. You know, they have vision. And the reason they do is because they see things other people don't normally see. It's very hard to do that, actually. If you're in your everyday life, life kind of goes on and you kind of experience things that, as everybody else does, and societal norms kind of become your belief system. And I think visionaries are really important because they actually see a future state that some of us can't see. So I think I want to kind of have that in the back of your mind, like, what is a visionary? How do you become a visionary? Do I want to become a visionary? Answer those questions for yourself. I'm going to contend, that I do, and I kind of get inspired by that because you can always aspire to bigger, better, greater things in life while celebrating the things that you have right now. So let's see if this works. My clicker's not working, so I'm just going to... Okay, why don't you click that for me? I'm going to keep you there. Stay there. Stay there. Be my friend. Okay, so I wanted to start with the word generosity. The title of the talk was Abundance versus Scarcity. And abundance and scarcity are good opposites, so it works for the title. But I want to focus on the word generosity for a couple reasons. Abundance is literally just an amount of things, right? But generosity, if you read the actual definition, it requires kindness. And I think that's a really important point. In life, in business, in the world, I just feel like being nice, it goes so far. Imagine yourself walking into any retail shop. What kind of hits you the first time you walk into this? You actually are greeted by somebody, and if they smile genuinely, and you can feel the genuineness, immediately it lets your guard down. You're kind of in the mode of let's make friends, right? And you're more receptive and willing and open to hear what they have to say. That all comes from just genuinely being nice. So, the quality of being kind and generous, the fact of being plentiful or large, when I sat with Carol, what I was saying was literally I approach life from a mode of generosity, not from a mode of scarcity. And I'm just going to keep kind of bringing you back to this theme because I'm going to explain to you in different examples, but I just wanted you to have this. I think I could do this, right? Thank you. Oh, go back. Okay. So this word, actually, if you saw in the synonyms for generosity, liberality was in there. And I was like, as I was doing my research for this, I'm like, that's a good word. Because this one actually denotes giving and spending freely and being open to new ideas. So, yes, be nice, but then you also have to be open. You have to be able to, and this is interesting too, I think in order to be generous, you have to be grateful. You have to be able to let go of the things of the past that may have been negative or didn't go the way you planned, so that you can see things in the future. And gratitude creates that. And then, hence, you can then be generous. But liberality, I think the feeling of open-mindedness is what I kind of wanted you to take away from this. So here's the kind of example part of the conversation. Carol told me to get very personal, and so I took that pretty literally. Yes, this is me at 6 months old. It's not Charlotte, but though people do say that she looks like me. Finally, I got one that looks like me. This might be, and yellow, actually, this was taken in the 70s, and yellow was very hip. So right? I think everybody knows that yellow. It's like bathrooms, you've seen it in houses you tried to buy. But just fast forwarding a little bit from there, I went to Lehigh University. I had a little bit of fun going through the internet and found my old yearbooks online, which I recommend you all do because it's really eye-opening to look back at that period of time. Yes, and I made those pictures very small so that you really couldn't see what I looked like in college. But I bring this up because I didn't really know that I had a philosophy when I was in college. I don't think you do. I don't think that's something that you think about. It's only after you've had some years and different experiences that you then look back and say, hey, there was a pattern to my behavior. That means I kind of believe this. I have a value system, and this maybe is what you could coin your own philosophy. In college, one thing that stood out was, when I was thinking about even applying to college, I was like, what's my major going to be? I wanted to do mechanical engineering for a very specific reason. My father told me not to do it. He was a mechanical engineer. And he was like, don't do it. But I was like, no, I wanted to do basically, I was good at math and science, and I wanted to learn how things worked. And I didn't really know that I was going to be an engineer or what I was going to do with it when I graduated, to be perfectly honest. But I was like, let me try it. Let me just go for it. It's the hardest thing I can think about doing in school right now. And there's other majors at the school, so I could always fall back on something else if it doesn't work out. And I got to say, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, I think, to go for it. It was definitely trying. It was not an easy major. I think we have this motto at Lehigh University, it's work hard, play hard. And the engineers were doing all the work, and everybody else was playing. So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting, because my father says, you ended up in marketing, you studied engineering. You could have had a lot more fun in college. But anyway, just from the point of just taking that major. And then it was like, okay, well, I did a pretty challenging curriculum, and there was one of 10 girls in mechanical engineering, one of probably 25 across all the engineering disciplines at the time that I went. And I think that it was like, what else, would I take on anything else beyond that? I think some people might think, I won't take on that next club or extracurricular activity or job or whatever because of a fear. A fear that maybe you won't be able to handle your curriculum, your GPA might fall down, and this is kind of for all the students in the room, right? I would say go for it. Whatever it is, the things that I did in school literally were everywhere from the university choir to I joined a sorority, did intramural sports. I literally took advantage of almost every opportunity that was put in front of me, almost to a point where, you don't know your breaking point until you actually reach it. And honestly, you don't really reach it that often. So go for it, right? It's so funny. So when we graduated school, I'm sitting there and everybody can imagine their graduation day in university. I'm sitting in the rows, we're all sweating in our robes and gowns, and they're giving out awards at graduation day, and all of a sudden they actually called me up to the podium, and I was completely surprised. I had no advanced warning, and it was for this award that actually sits in my bedroom wall in my parents' house in Emerson, New Jersey. And it was and it literally says, outstanding contributions to student life, but the way it was introduced was to the student that took advantage of the most opportunities that were presented in front of them. And it didn't, I was just like, I didn't even know that word existed. I honestly don't know if they give it out every year or if it ever went out again, but it struck me as something important for this conversation because looking back at those years, I definitely feel like that shaped a lot of who I am today. So I thought I would share that with you. So I'm going to leave this up here for a little while so you have a chance to kind of keep this in the back of your mind. But I think for all of the business folk in the room, I want to kind of take you down a little journey. I mean, Carol spoke about it a little bit, about my background, but I just want to kind of give you some examples from some of those and how that journey kind of progressed. When I graduated Lehigh University, it was the first time Mercedes-Benz came on campus to recruit engineers. And it was literally because of one alumni who decided to go back, and he recruited 2 people, 1 year before me and my year. Mercedes-Benz corporate in the United States typically does not recruit straight out of school. So it was very difficult to get into the company. And it just so happened that a little bit of luck, I think, but also taking advantage of the opportunity that was presented to interview led me down to that path. I started at Mercedes-Benz In the year 2000, I was probably 10 or 20 years younger than any other person that was in that department, and one of two females in the engineering department. So it was a little bit intimidating at first. But I got taken by my first boss, William Kurtz, who I'll never forget, to this meeting, my first day, and it was literally all the kind of key department managers and leadership of the company in the engineering department, and they were talking about putting on an open house. An open house event to basically showcase to the rest of the company what the engineers are doing in that building in the corner that nobody really knows, right? And I started to speak up in that conversation. They were talking about ways to do it, how they wanted to, put it on, who they were going to communicate with, and I started giving my ideas. They were all kind of looking at me like, okay, and then by the time I found myself walking out of that room, being on the committee of 3 people that were going to be running the open house. The open house comes and goes, and then my boss says, we want to do a newsletter that we can publish that talks about all the things that we're working on, the great work that we're doing, and it's going to go distributed across the pond to Germany and all across, MBUSA. Do you mind editing it? Okay, sure. I mean, I'm an engineer. Keep in mind, I took 1 English class in university. I was like, sure. So then I sat with all the different department managers. I got them to give me their kind of the current events, right, of their thing. And then I rewrote everything that they wrote, and then it went out. And one day, the head of PR tapped me on the shoulder and said, you should come interview for a position that I have available. And I was like, sure, what's PR? And I sat down with them, and I learned what I was doing for the engineering department, right, was PR. When you kind of, right? I mean, where's Kathy? You know what I'm talking about. Kathy knows what I'm talking about. And so then that's kind of how I became the product and technology public relations person for Mercedes-Benz USA. I was literally one of 2 people interfacing with the national automotive media, the Car and Driver, Road and Track, Motor Trends of the world, as well as when we had auto columnists across the country, the LA Times, New York Times, Washington Post, and I was the person, me and my boss, that they were interfacing with. I put on events to showcase our vehicles, and I got a chance to kind of travel to Germany, having been an engineer, and I fell in love with the brand. And I admit freely, before I started at Mercedes-Benz, I used to kind of, I think every person of youth loves BMW, I'll be totally frank. But then I actually was like, and I, not a knock against them at all, but I fell in love with Mercedes-Benz because of the holistic approach to safety. Literally, the engineers in Germany, everybody in the States, they do what's right. They kind of don't just design to a standard, they design to the standard above that, which is basically holistic, right? What is right for the actual occupant of the car. Anyway, so PR is kind of where I fell in love between PR and engineering with the brand itself. And then, the move to marketing was an interesting one. And put yourself in this kind of situation. I think people that have been working for a while can really understand this, and the students can think about it from the perspective of how would you approach this situation. I'd been doing PR for 4.5 years. It was fun. It was probably the best job I ever had in my life, traveling the world, meeting great people. But it was like I've been doing it for 4 years, and I wasn't really learning and growing anymore. I felt like it was just kind of, I was doing it well, and I felt comfortable. Have you ever felt comfortable in a job? So this position came up in the marketing department for a supervisory role. And I said, okay, I'm going to put my hands in the ring for it. And a colleague of mine who was also a female, probably around the same level of experience, and a very similar kind of varied background, she could have easily done this job as well. She kind of was like, no, I would never apply for that job. And I said, why not? She said, because I've never done it before, and I don't think anybody would ever, pay attention or be led by me. I don't think that, I think you have to really have done this for many, many years in order for somebody to respect you to do it. And I think in that moment, we had a very different opinion. Mine was, I've watched other people around me, males, females, go for it. Just say, let me put my hand in the ring, and if it's a good fit, great. Whatever I don't know, I'll learn on the job. And she didn't do that, so she actually never went for it. I went for it, and I got the job. And that was the start of my career in marketing. I started as regional marketing person, and then I took on national brand marketing, and then by the time I left Mercedes, And in 2015, I was literally running the marketing department. I was doing television commercials, radio, all the brochures, as well as the media planning and buying. And it was amazing, and I learned it on the job. I literally studied mechanical engineering, learned PR on the job, learned marketing on the job. So I guess the story there is basically go for it. And if you approach life from a mode of generosity, I feel like you have a little bit more courage. You trust that it's kind of going to work out, and you give yourself like a direction to go in. You don't really know where you're going to end up at the end of the day, but by not controlling it, you actually go farther than you ever could have dreamed possible, because sometimes you make your life small by trying to control it, if that makes any sense. So fast forward, I also want to kind of give you another couple examples of generosity versus scarcity. I'm a department manager at Mercedes-Benz, and I have another female colleague of mine who is going for a department manager role, eventually gets it. And her approach to management was pretty much something like this. She would literally take all of, have her department members do all of the presentations, and she would be the face of the department to executive management, take their work and present them. She was the head of brand event marketing. She would also, among her peers, if there was a project to be done, she was very clear in her delineation of responsibility. And I think that's important in certain instances. Everybody kind of needs to know their swim lanes in order to move things forward. But she had a very strong skill set in a certain area and maybe some weaknesses in other areas. But she would basically slap anybody's hand that would come close to what was her responsibility. I, on the other hand, if you juxtapose that, took a different tact. And maybe almost to a fault, I tend to promote the people in my department, right? Especially the ones that feel like they can't do it. So if there was a presentation that was coming up, I would invite them to help put the presentation together and then bring them along to the meeting and let them do most of the talking and just interject here and there. The difference of those two kind of modes of operating is, I believe that I have a certain strength and skill set. She has a certain strength and skill set. Departments are built in certain ways, and you have certain swim lanes and responsibilities, and you have to meet those goals, but the work and the final product is that much better when you actually allow each other to do what your strengths are. If I was able to kind of contribute to her and she was able to contribute to me, the work would have been that much better. Her people would have been that much more, felt that much more accomplished, and everybody kind of seems to generate more opportunities, more feeling of goodwill, and it just propagates from there. So I want to kind of segue a little bit to how this kind of works at Mercedes-Benz. In general, the company is a place where you can let your wings fly. Innovation is completely accepted, and it's encouraged, actually. We do things a little bit differently. The visionaries at the company stem across the company. It's very engineering-led. I think you know that in Stuttgart, Germany, the little town where Peter comes from, right outside of Stuttgart, Germany, there's a team of design engineers that work inside of a design hall, and you have to imagine it's literally something out of a sci-fi movie. And every single team of engineers, they're dedicated to a particular product line, and their entire world is around making that product the best it can possibly be. I don't know if there's any F1 fans in the room or NASCAR racing fans, by a show of hands. Yeah. So F1 is really popular in Europe. It hasn't really made it all the way over here. But this is actually Mercedes-Benz's first kind of foray into putting an F1 car basically on the road. And I think it shows kind of that visionary thinking and being a visionary is actually pervasive throughout the company, but I also think it's kind of a fun video, so I'm just going to play it for you now.
With every step in our history, we challenge the limits.
So there's only 200 of those cars that are being made, and each one of them is about $2.5 million. I'm not saying that those are going to be the first ones that we'll be putting on the showroom floor. Yeah, the Mercedes-Benz brand actually starts at around 32.7, so it can go all the way up to 2.5 million, but most of them are way less expensive than that. I wanted to kind of just transition quickly and just kind of share with you a little bit why Peter and I decided to come to this market. This opportunity came up for us probably around 3 years ago, and Peter and I took a drive to this area, and we drove all around. We drove into Springfield, to downtown proper, up to Northampton, Amherst, like really kind of took our time and were tourists in the area. And honestly, you know, downtown Springfield specifically, it's a town that you can definitely feel had its heyday. And since then, I've learned a couple things that, you know, Springfield itself was Silicon Valley before Silicon Valley, right? There's many, many, many firsts that happened in this region of Western Mass. And I have to say, you can feel it when you drive through Springfield and you meet the people and you talk to folks like yourselves, that there's this renaissance happening here. It's exciting. It is possible. It's a completely, like, almost like an energized atom. I know I'm going back to my mechanical engineering days, but like it's got all this potential energy that's been building up, building up, building up. And I think we can point to multiple things that kind of make that feel real. For us, being transplants to the area, there's none of the baggage of the past, like I was saying earlier. So there's none of that clouding kind of the way forward. And I would invite you to kind of take that on as well. For us, we're super excited to bring the Mercedes-Benz brand back to this area. It hasn't been around here for 10 years, and we every bit believe that it will be successful here because, first of all, surprisingly to maybe people in the room, there are many Mercedes-Benz lovers and drivers already here, so they don't have to be convinced. But second, I believe that every single person in the world, if there's something good or the best of something exists, then every single person deserves to have it. And I think there's plenty to go around, and I think there's enough for everybody, and I believe that with all my heart. So I hope that you would believe that for yourselves as well. Know that Peter and I are beyond ecstatic to open the doors on Monday, mind you, and welcome you all there. I would welcome every single one of you to come in. If you already own a Mercedes, we'll be happy to wash your car anytime you want to come in, no appointment necessary. And if you don't own a Mercedes, come in and test drive whatever you would like. Have fun. Be a kid in a candy store. And if it fits, great, and if it doesn't, great, but then be happy. So I wanted to just kind of, I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I wanted to kind of, I want to open it up to questions in just a minute, so get your questions ready. But I wanted to actually end on another thought. Yeah, could I scroll ahead? For those of you that are kind of wondering, like, how do I kind of go about having generous thinking or coming from this point of, or being a visionary, there's a couple questions that you can ask yourself to kind of come to your ultimate mission. You know, what legacy do you want to leave behind? How do you want people to describe you? What do you want to be? How do you define success in life? What makes your life really worth living? What are you at your core? If you take the time to kind of read through these questions and really ask them of yourselves and answer them honestly, that's the tricky part, especially for the people that have been working for a while. To be honest with yourself and then actually understand what your true passions are, your true values, where your true values lie, and have the courage to kind of act on it, it'll take you to places that you never thought possible. A quick exercise that I think if you wanted to do it today when you go back to your desks in the office is list out everything that is important to you in your life, right? So your job, health, family, happiness, faith, work-life balance. Put it all down on a piece of paper, add whatever you want to the list, and then quickly just rank it in importance to you from 1 to 10, and then in your energy and effort that you put against it from 1 to 10. And if they don't match up, then that should be a red flag for you to make a change or to see and explore that further. I do think that you have to take care of yourself from all three angles, mental, physical, and spiritual, so keep that in the back of your mind as well. And then I do believe that every single person is a leader. You might not have the title, but you are a leader of your own self, and it's something I call personal leadership, and you can exhibit leadership in everything that you do. You can write them down so that you know what they are for yourself. Sometimes just the act of writing it makes such a difference. And I do challenge everybody in the room to come up with your 90-day mission. So in the next 90 days, what do you feel is important? What do you want to accomplish? What do you think would make you happy? And then once you write it down and define it, you'll be surprised you'll get there faster than you think. Oh, and I love this last one. So everybody's got a dysfunctional story. You might think you don't. I do. Everybody does. And those are the things that are your limiting beliefs. Things that you tell yourself that basically make you feel like what you want to accomplish is not possible. So for me, I mean, in a small way, right? I'll start with one example. You know, I was working full time, and I had an opportunity that might have taken my career in a completely different direction. And I remember this particular moment in time because I was very excited. When you feel that butterfly feeling in your stomach, you know that you're onto something that's meaningful to you and of value to you. And I had an opportunity to kind of pursue this, but I had a full-time job. And in the moment that I got the call, I was on the George Washington Bridge. It was a sunny day. I'm driving across the George Washington Bridge. I get the call. You know, we had a great interview with you. We think it would be a wonderful opportunity, you know, but you're going to have to make yourself available during the day, this time, this time, this time. And it was like a long list of times that I felt like, oh my God, I'm already committed to this job, and how am I going to make it? It's not possible. I can't do it. And I, in the phone, was like, sure, I'll be there. It'll be great. And I hung up the phone, and I knew in my heart that I wasn't going to go for it because I was afraid. I was afraid that it wasn't going to work out from a timing perspective. It wasn't the right fit, whatever. But I remember that as a defining moment. It's like that, if I just said yes, what could have happened? What direction would I have went in? So we all have these like stories we tell ourselves of the way things that are, they just are that way. And I would challenge you to kind of think about what those are for you. And if they're limiting you from achieving what you actually want to achieve, then I would say they're your dysfunctional story. And I'm going to leave you with this last slide. We talked about gratitude a little bit before. I think that if you want to be a person that comes and approaches life from a mode of generosity, you've got to be, and it eventually will lead you to be a visionary, you've got to be grateful. You've got to look at your life and look at all the things past and present that you are thankful for. And that creates, actually, this feeling of, like, you basically are able to let go of the ugliness of the past, and it frees up a space for you to see things that other people can't see, to see a better future, or to see new opportunities. And if you don't, you kind of get stuck in your muck. And then generosity. If you operate from a place that there's enough for everybody, there's enough time, there's enough good things in the world, there's enough praise, there's enough acknowledgement, you tend to go for things more, and more opportunities abound for you. So the last statement here is, if you want to see others, you want to see things others don't see, and have the courage to act on it, be generous and grateful. And to all the future visionaries in the room, thank you for your time and attention. I really appreciate it. And I guess I'm supposed to open it up to Q&A. Sure. You have a mic? Okay. I'll run around. Okay, great.
So I work with family businesses, and you're in a spousal partnership, and I'm just wondering how you demonstrate gratitude and generosity together as business partners to each other.
No, we fight all the time. Yeah, you know, another key thing, and if you don't mind, I'm going to answer your question, but I just want to kind of throw something else in there because I think it's important. I didn't talk a lot about family. I didn't talk a lot about, like, my personal life, but I think for the students in the room especially, a conversation that comes up a lot for women specifically is, how am I going to balance work life and home life? I have 4 kids. Peter and I have 4 kids. The oldest is 8, 6'4", and then 6 months, right? And for me, it's not work-life balance, it's work-life oscillation, if that makes any sense. When I'm at work, I'm 100% at work, and when I'm home, I try to be 100% at home. right? That way the kids feel the quality of my presence, and it's quality time versus quantity time, and work feels the quality of my presence, and you're not split in a million directions. And I think the conversation always comes up, right, where you're thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? I have this, all these kind of other commitments that I have to hold on to. And as women, we have that conversation more than men do in general. And I would just say that it takes a village. I don't do anything on my own. My husband and I are very, I guess in my world, if I had to kind of like coin it, it's like the best partnership I could have ever imagined. And I never thought I would marry a German, first of all. I mean, being like an American, I just had no idea, right? But I was open to that possibility. And we support each other. We have clear kind of defined roles and responsibilities. I basically do the PR and marketing for our businesses, but he does everything else. And then I'm able to kind of take care of the kids and do what I got to do there. And then we decide together what are the important events that we want to share and how are we going to kind of make everything work. So does it work perfectly all the time? No. I mean, it's impossible to think that that's the case. But I feel like we have a really great symbiotic partnership and relationship, home life and business life.
So I'm curious if you could share a little bit more. You said 3 years ago this opportunity came forward. I'm curious how it evolved from there when you put the stake in the ground that you were coming here.
Sure.
And when you open your doors on Monday, how many caring associates will be part of your team?
Sure.
And where did you find them?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the first part of your question. So the way it works, Mercedes-Benz Corporate does market studies across the United States and the world, for that matter, where they think there's market share opportunities. Springfield was identified as one. It's a company called Urban Science. They do it for Mercedes. They do it for other car manufacturers. They basically say, based on your brand and category, what's the potential for them? And they identified this market, Western Massachusetts, as a potential. There's BMW, Audi, Lexus, there was Porsche, right? There's pretty much all the other brands are here, and they're thriving, and our market share is basically lacking, right? So it's a pretty scientific reason. Peter and I, our partner was approached with the opportunity for that. So Mercedes doesn't just sell franchises to people. They actually handpick who they want to run them. Unless you're Alex Rodriguez or like Nick Saban, then you can go buy a dealership. I think that's possible. But for us, it happened through being hand-selected by corporate to run the dealership. So when we actually were considering, because obviously we live in New Jersey our entire lives and family, and my support structure, his support structure is there, right? If not in Germany, then in Jersey. And like I said, when we were driving through the area and we were meeting with folks and we met with the town and we were kind of identifying property, it literally felt like it was the right decision every step of the way. You kind of make a decision, you take a leap of faith, right, that it's going to all work out, but you don't really know. Then as you start going through the process where we found a piece of property, we met with the town of Chicopee, Mayor Cost and his staff couldn't be any more accommodating and nicer about the whole thing. And then meeting all the people, some of them in this room, inviting us into Williams Distributing to use their facilities while ours are under construction. Business West, the Republican, Mass Live, everybody just opening their arms and saying, you're probably going to need this resource, or you're probably going to need that help. Gary Rome even, offering to come and have a conversation about, just being businessmen in the same kind of world, helping each other out. I mean, that's amazing. I feel like at every step of the way, we get more and more excited about the opportunity of bringing it here. Did I answer all your questions? The team. I'm I got too carried away. So we're starting with around 30, 35 people. 3 employees are from the New York area, Peter, myself, and one other person who's our assistant. Everybody else was hired locally. How did I do it? You want my secrets? I prayed. No. Honestly, I put ads out on LinkedIn and on Indeed.com. We started there and got a really great response. We've had the opportunity to I think some of the articles in the press that we've received has helped. And as people become more and more aware that we're coming to town, that's also pointed people towards applying online to our website. People that know people, we're recommending people to us. I think that's really important, especially in this market where we don't have the network that maybe you might have. So that's really the way it happened. You're welcome.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
Your slide on defining your ultimate vision resonated with me a lot. I really believe in defining your personal core values and re-examining them frequently to make sure things are aligned in your life. I was wondering how you applied that to your business. Does your Mercedes-Benz probably has its core values, I'm sure. Have you applied that to your own dealership? Can you say a little bit about what your personalized core values are for Mercedes-Benz of Springfield?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
It's so funny. You feel like I want to read a mission statement to you or something, but I don't really have it written yet, so I'm just kind of going to wing it for you. I think, first and foremost, Peter and I are trying to create an atmosphere and a culture of inclusiveness, and I think the number one kind of tenet that we tell everybody that's working with us is just be nice, right? And I think just be nice helps in so many ways because it's impossible to think that every single person that starts with us on Monday, right? They've started with us a little bit earlier than that, but when they open the doors and they greet somebody on Monday, that they're all going to have the answers to every question. They're not. It's not impossible. It's not going to happen. People might expect to hold them to that standard, but everybody will be accepting if they're just nice, right? Just say, excuse me, I don't know, I will get the answer for you. I think everybody understands that and can appreciate that. I think also just in terms of what we're trying to accomplish, we were trying to make this culture of innovation and inclusiveness pervasive at the store. So literally when our finance manager starts and our pre-owned manager had started, we told them, here's kind of what we want to accomplish. Here's the vision at the end of the day. And we gave them the latitude to go do it. We hired professionals that know what they're doing. We have our core tenets of what we want to accomplish. We're trying to, be nice, provide the best service possible to people, and genuinely care. And then you just let people be themselves and let them shine. So I don't know if that totally answered your question, but that's kind of it. Peter, do you have something to add to that? Good? Good, all right. Okay, one more.
I was very intrigued by your description of what you see as a renaissance for Springfield. I am fairly new to the area myself, and I have to say that I've had the same feeling about it. Okay. And I was wondering, what are the specific signposts that you see that make you feel this is happening here? Are there any specific initiatives, endeavors, et cetera, within the larger community?
Yeah, I think in general, I think you can point to the big things that are in the press and everybody kind of knows about, right? Our partners and hopefully our future we'll work partners together. MGM is coming to town, right? Revitalizing a certain section of downtown. CRRC is coming to West Springfield. It's a multi-billion-dollar company opening up their doors here. They chose here to be. And then just the investment. We went to a couple of the mayor's economic updates, and I didn't even know at the time, surprised at how much money is being reinvested in improvements, just in traffic improvements or just much needed upgrades or Union Station and all these things that are beautiful landmarks. They're restorative of the past, that they feel kind of like we're not losing our heritage, but we're moving forward and we're celebrating our past, and we recognize there's some things that need to happen, so let's make it happen. And those things, point to it. And also just, honestly, the people. I don't know how you feel, but, there's people like Carol Leary. People, you cannot say no to Carol Leary, right? So I'm standing here. They're forces. There's people that are actually forces to be reckoned with throughout this community, and they're bringing everybody else along with them, and that's a good thing, I think.
Well, I think you can see why we invited Michelle Wirth to this area. And when she talks about her vision and her philosophy, each one of us will leave today with a little bit of Michelle going with us, and that philosophy and that vision. So help me again in thanking Michelle Wirth. And I was so glad our students were here today as well to take advantage of this Innovators Lecture Series, because I think that you were able to relate so much of your experience in college to theirs. And I know, as I'm looking around the room, that they're going to definitely remember everything you said about grabbing every opportunity. And you know, Michelle, that Carpe Diem is Bay Path's motto since 1897. So seize the day. So we're going to seize the day by giving you your first decal for your Mercedes-Benz that you drive throughout this area. I love that. No other college or university, right, Peter? It's going to be Bay Path University on your, we'll have to get you one too, because I'm sure you're each driving a separate car. And we hope you'll have this on as you're driving in your car, your Bay Path University jacket. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It was an extraordinary presentation. And I have to thank you especially because you are opening the doors on October 16th. And here you are presenting to all of us just a few days before. So thank you for grabbing that opportunity as well. And thank you to all of you. We hope to see you on November 9th at our Cybersecurity Summit at the Women's Leadership Conference on April 6th. And remember the Strategic Alliances Division, where we can bring to you incredible opportunities, workshops that meet your custom needs. So make sure you see Dr. Stephen Brand at the back of the room. Grab the information. Have a great day and a great fall. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I love it.